you take a look at the regulations, you can technically, have a business abroad if it's operational, expand it to the U.S. so long as that U.S. business is older than 1 year and operational, functional, viable, then applying for an EB1C might be a possibility.
What do you want to see for those cases? Because it does seem like there's quite a lot of Canadians and, well, people from around the world that have a business, maybe 10, 15 employees.
Right.
What do you want to see in terms of org structure in the home country, revenue, profits, where it's like, okay, this is a viable option that if you kick ass in the US business, you could potentially get a green card through this.
Right. Yeah. So it is a good question because, many times I can't tell you over the years how many times I've seen this where, a person just thinks like, okay, now I have a foreign business, I have a U.S. business. Let's go for it. Let's do the EB1C. But the reality is that, for an EB1C or an L1A, you do need to show that the individual that is moving to the US is a senior manager or executive. So imagining what an org chart would look like for that. If you have, a one person company, that's a harder sell, right? You do want to show that there are, there's no minimum number of employees, but you want to show, for example, that okay, if the person applying is a senior manager or executive, I'm assuming there's a managerial level beneath that individual, and then beneath that individual, that line of individuals, there are also other workers, frontline workers, or whatever they may be. There is no minimum revenue levels that are required, but it has to make sense. That's the way you got to look at it. So if the company is doing well abroad and they've expanded to the U.S. and the U.S. has started hiring individuals, the U.S. companies really standalone can support paying the salary of the individual that's being transferred. But also looking at it from the perspective that, yeah, standalone, it's a company that's doing well. It's on a upswing, trajectory. So it would make sense then to apply at that, maybe in that case for an EB1C. But if it is a very flat business, if there's no real room for growth, then you may want to consider whether the EB1C would be appropriate. Sometimes there's no hurry to apply for an EB1C either, right?
For sure.
I've had clients that are particularly fond and happy to remain on a temporary status like the E2 visa
For
without
sure.
knowing full well that, hey, I don't have to necessarily file my taxes as a U.S. resident, which has its own set of complications at times. But and the E2 being available again year round without a cap and renewable indefinitely,
Super
it is
flexible visa. I
it
mean, we
is
have some very wealthy clients that the family might reside in Florida, Texas, California, and then the breadwinner is going back and forth and maybe counts their days and spends no more than 120 days in the United
right,
States. So they don't have to pay global income and don't have to worry about, estate issues down the line.
right.